My project today is to fix the hood release on my Cayenne. So the other day I attempted to open the hood and it failed to open. Now the Cayenne does have a secondary hood release. It's meant as a backup in case of an emergency like this where the primary has failed. To access it, I'm going to have to get in here in the wheel hub and remove the panel and then be able to pull the release, which at that point should open the hood, and then I should be able to identify the broken part for the primary release and then order it. Then I'll have to come back in a week or so and finish the video when I install the new part. Now the Cayenne does have an emergency hood release and it is right in here on the passenger wheel hub. So I need to get a panel out of the way and then I should be able to pull that hood release. Once the hood is open, I can identify what is broken and then order the part, and once I get it in, I can then, of course, replace it and hopefully at that point fix my issue. So this is the front passenger side wheel. You can see I've turned it as far as I can to the right so I can get as much space in there as possible. You could do this job by taking the tire off so that you have all the space in there to work with and you can remove the entire panel. I have seen this done though where they leave the tire on, and that's what I'm going to do, and just remove the screws and bolts that are necessary just to be able to get enough room to pull the emergency release. And so that's what I'm going to do today. So what I need to do is I need to remove a whole bunch of these Torx head screws that are securing the liner inside here. And there's one bolt up there that's 10 millimeter. I might have to remove that as well. So I'm just going to play it by ear and see how much I need to remove to be able to get my hand in there and pull that emergency release. So these two screws are not Torx heads, they are Phillips heads. Not sure why that was done since everything on there seems to be a Torx head, but I'm just going to swap bits and then I'll remove those as well because I'm pretty sure they need to come out so I can get that panel pulled back enough to reach inside. Alright guys, that is the emergency pull cable right there. So I was able to pull the panel out of the way enough, and I got the light in here so you can see it is kind of buried in there. It is definitely reachable. Alright, it's maybe 1.5 feet in, so it's pretty easy to reach. It's just a little bit difficult to identify when you're looking for it at first. But that's it. So once I pull that, that should unlock the hood, and I should be good to go to continue on and identify what's actually broken. Okay, now that I have the hood open, what I'm going to do is come to the interior and I'm going to work on the driver's side where the hood release is, and I'm going to work to remove the plastic cover here because from what I can tell, it's possible that one of two things have happened. Either the hood release cable is broken and it broke primarily on this end, or the plastic piece that manipulates the cable so what you actually pull, that seems to be okay, but the inner piece that let me show you. So this plastic piece is what you actually pull on to manipulate the cable, and so it sits onto a little black wheel in there, and I think the end piece of that wheel has broken or the cable is broken off of there. One of two things have happened. So I'm going to remove all these pieces so I can access that and find out which piece I need to replace. That way I don't have to deal with the engine bay area just yet because that one looks to be a lot more complicated to access. And if I don't have to deal with that, if that's not where it's broken at, then I don't want to have to take it apart. So to start with, I'm going to get the floor mat out of the way because I can't remember if I'm going to have to deal with the carpet or not during this. And if I do, then I need the floor mat out of there. And then next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this silver trim piece here. This just presses down. So I'm going to use a couple of special tools and just kind of pry up on it real carefully. Okay, I got the sill plate lifted up enough that I would now be able to get this piece out because it goes underneath here. So this doesn't need to come off completely, just needs to be pried out so that it's free, and then this can come out from underneath. All right, so finally got this piece out. Very difficult. Definitely don't want to break this, but there's basically two metal clips you have to deal with. I got one here. Looks like I'm missing one. I need to look around in the car to see if maybe it fell out or if I was missing it to begin with, in which case I need to try to replace it. And then you kind of deal with this one. This kind of just holds it in place, applies tension, I think, just to keep it from kind of leaning out in towards your pedal area. This is what the piece above it attaches to. That one came out real easily, so that wasn't a big deal. But these two, that's what you're trying to reach for in there. They're really difficult to get to. All right, so that's what I'm looking to remove right here. Is I need to get this out of here. Still not sure if it's broken. Kind of looks like this piece up top is broken. That should be the cable which leads to the hood release. So I don't think it's going to interact properly because that ball looks like it's supposed to fit inside of there, and this piece looks broken. So I think the cable's fine. I think this piece is broken. I got looks like 2 screws, so I'm going to remove that, and then hopefully this whole thing will come out. Okay, I finally got this out of there. So once you get the screws out, you just kind of need to rotate it downward. You got that clip right there, and so it sticks into the body of the car, so it needs to be rotated down and then lifted up to be able to get it out. And you can see that that is indeed broken. So it looks like the cable is fine, just this piece is broken, so I'm gonna have to get online, try to find this part and replace it. Since I identified what the broken piece was, I went ahead and put back together the passenger tire fender well because I don't need access to that emergency pull anymore. Since I can open the hood with the interior one, the way this is going to work is you got this little ball right here. You can just barely see it in my fingers. That is the end of the cable that heads to the release latch under the hood. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grip it with my pliers here. I'm going to pull really hard on it. There we go. And that opened the hood. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put back together the parts of the interior here that allow me to still have access to this. And then the other pieces I'll just leave taken apart, and I'll leave it like that until I get the new part in. All right, guys, so it's been about a week and I've got my new part in, and you can see in the close-ups the difference between the two and where it's broken. So I'm going to go ahead and install the new one here, and this is actually a Volkswagen part, not a Porsche part. So it's just not made by Porsche, but it's used on their cars. So it was cheaper to buy through the Volkswagen dealership than through any of the Porsche part websites. Okay, to get the new piece installed, I have to get a couple of things lined up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the ball into here where it's supposed to go, and then run the cable through so it holds into place. Now I need to get this cable in here, and this little brass piece has a little cutout that it needs to go in. So to do that, I'm going to apply some tension on the cable, go in at an angle that hooks, and then there. And when you see that little cutout that the brass piece is meant to go into, and now everything is in place and it can be reinstalled. For getting it back in, you got this little tab on the bottom, you got a hole right there, it needs to go in. Alright, just like that. Okay, now I'm going to put my screws back in. Okay, at this point I can put all the plastic pieces back on. This is definitely the hardest one to get on and off, so it takes a little bit of finessing, and you don't want to break it because it can be a bit expensive to replace. Alright, last step is to get the pull handle back on there. And now to test it out. And it works. So that covers how to access the emergency hood release on the Porsche Cayenne and how to replace the hood release bracket. So I hope this video was informative for all you Porsche Cayenne owners, or if you don't have one, hope you just enjoyed watching it. So if you did, please give me a thumbs up, click the subscribe button, and we'll see you next time on the DIY Grunt.